Welcome to Your Intended Message, the perfect place for leaders and promising professionals who want to convey the intended message for greater success. Every week, we interview experts who can help you communicate more effectively, whether that's one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many. And perhaps the most important conversation, one-to-self. I'm your host, George Torok. My guest today is Darrell Keezer. There's 3 facts that you should know about Darrell. He is CEO and founder of Candy Box Marketing, a digital marketing agency, not only a digital marketing agency, but one of the fastest growing digital agency in Canada 2 years in a row. The second piece of information for you about Darrell is he is an author. He's the author of this book, Up Your Freakin Phone. It's a guide. It's the new rules for entrepreneurs, a fabulous read. And the third piece of information you should know about Darrell is he's not all business. He's also an avid slalom skier, which water skiing, of course. And he's enjoying that very much at this time of the year. Darrell Keezer, welcome to Your Intended Message.
Thanks so much for having me, George. It's a privilege.
Darrell, some people might not be clear on what digital marketing agency means. Many might know about marketing agencies, and typically they would be the ones who would help you develop an ad campaign that might run in magazines or on radio or even on TV. But that's not what you do, is it?
No. So we would now group them into different categories in 2020, where I would call a traditional agency is an agency that would procure or buy any type of media for you. So that could be TV, radio, newspaper, print, impressions, and I mean, I took marketing in school. And so generally when you're going out to market, right, you pick your medium. So let's say television. You pick your message, and so it's get a furnace and get your air conditioner installed for free, and then you choose your frequency. And at the end of the year, you kind of look at the numbers and you decide, was that a successful campaign? Do we think it worked? Do we think it not worked? Whereas a digital marketing agency, we actually commit to not doing any traditional marketing, so we try to specialize in just the digital area. And so that is everything from websites, search engine marketing, social media marketing, and overall what I would call like multimedia or content marketing for the purposes of generating new online leads or sales. It's there's a lot of agencies these days that say, well, they do digital marketing, but I would say sometimes it's traditional and new blended. And then other people are like, they would be like a web designer, and they would say they're a marketing agency. But as an agency, you kind of need to represent all aspects of marketing, anything from writing the website content, coming up with the graphics, spending the ads, and following up on the results. And so we kind of sit right there as a new like digital only agency focused on anything that happens on a screen.
Now, if you're the fastest digital marketing growing agency in Canada, you must be doing something right. What do your clients typically say that you're doing for them and that they want more of?
Sure. And so to also clarify the award there, we're on Maclean's list of fastest growing companies in Canada. In regards to every company in Canada, we're number 188. In regards to marketing agencies, and there's some, it's always hard to slice and dice every company, but I think we're in the top 10 of specific agencies to be clear. And in saying all that clarification, I completely forgot your question, George. So you're going to just have to repeat it. I just wanted to make sure I was clarifying our award there.
And by the way, I point that out. There's an example of clarifying the intended message where I was saying something good and positive, but it wasn't accurate. And you pointed out the correction, which is something that all of us need to be aware when we are delivering a message. My question is, and see if I can remember. If you're one of the fastest growing, mm-hmm. You must be doing something different and something right that the others haven't quite figured out yet or aren't doing. Without giving away your secret sauce, what do your clients typically say to you? Darrell, you know, that's working well for us. We want more of that.
Sure. So I can actually relate this back to a story of a conversation I had with Google about 4 years ago. And Google came to us, and what they do is, so Google is like an advertising network where we buy ads from. And they take a look at us as just an agency representing a number of different clients. So we have about 400 different clients at this point. And they came to us and said, you know, your retention rate, so we keep clients longer than the competition. And so they wanted to interview us on how we did that. And I mean, a lot of companies talk about growth. And I would actually say we attribute all of our growth to retention. Because if you think about it, a lot of marketing agencies are going out there year after year trying to drum up new business. They do something with them, and then they've got to find a whole list of other customers. Well, I've got customers that have been with us for 10 years, and we're constantly growing them, and they're helping grow us. It is not a really big challenge to grow if you have all of your clients from the last 10 years continuing to work with you when you're adding more. So back to the question of retention, Google said, well, you're keeping your customers a lot longer than other agencies. Could you tell us why? And I asked them back, I said, well, how much longer are we keeping them? Like, clearly you're tracking this. And they told us that the average digital agency keeps their clients for an average of 4 months. And they said that our average was 5.4 years. So 5.5 years. And if you do the quick math on that, I mean, we're over 12x our retention with our competitors. So it's not like we're like 30% longer. It's like we're thousands of percent longer. And my answer to them was very simple. Most of our competitors outsource their marketing, I would say, tactics and actual work overseas. And throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, you could find out that you could buy like get a web developer for $12 an hour, or you could, farm out your Google ad specialists to Google themselves, and they're going to send it overseas. And so it's really, really cheap rates. And so as a vendor over here in Canada, it's almost free if I were to just outsource everything overseas, and even Google's willing to take on some of that work. Instead of doing that, my concept is that we don't make crap. Like, we want to make the best product, and the only way to really have your hands on the quality is to actually have your hands on the product. So we don't outsource anything. We don't outsource our Google ads. We don't outsource our web design, our web development. It's all one team. It's all here in Canada, and it's our fundamental belief that if I'm trying to sell a product or service to a Canadian, then I probably need to be in Canada thinking about being a Canadian buying that product, because it's always about the user experience. And when I use my in-source team, like everybody's full-time here, to think about that and to innovate and come up with campaign ideas and to switch topics really quickly, or to switch their ads, when I do that, I get better results for my customer. When my customer gets better results, they grow. And when they're growing and they've hired a marketing agency and they're growing 30, 40% per year, or if they're big, maybe it's 10 or 15%, they're growing that substantially, they're never going to fire me. And so all my competitors keep cycling through clients and cycling through outsourced help, where all we're focused on is deliver the best quality product you possibly can, or the best working digital marketing plan. And when our clients win, we win. So I think that is, I mean, to be honest, I don't work for my competitors, so I don't always know, what's in their back shop. But when I look at the fundamentals of our growth, it's retention, and retention is only done by doing a great quality service that isn't too far removed from the customer.
So it's like any long-term relationship. The better we know each other, the better we understand each other's needs, moods, values, the more likely the relationship is going to last.
100%. Yeah. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to go and look for a new customer every 4 months and try to sell them on a program. We try not to sell anybody on anything. We're really trying to solve their digital marketing problems. where a lot of our competitors, it's about packages and pricing and, the race to the bottom. We are probably not the cheapest digital marketing agency out there. But when we have clients that move from $15 million of revenue per year to $20 million per year, we don't get fired, and we're quite happy with that.
So what are the options out there for your clients when they come to you and they Darrell, help us build our business. We don't want to lose business. We don't want to stay the same. We want to grow. So what do you sit down and say, well, here are your options, or here's something I need to know more about? Perhaps, sure. And perhaps there's two answers there.
Yeah. So the first thing that we do with them, almost like the priority, right, prior to the order of marketing, is we want to take a look at if there's any brand issues. And I know that's that's not always first in the digital marketing list, because sometimes people will say, well, we'll market anything that moves. But I know that if I start marketing something and nobody buys, or like nobody's actually signing up, and then that's going to be a huge problem at the end of the road, and we're right at the beginning, right? So we make sure that in regards to branding, messaging, offering, that it makes sense. We were recently dealing with a company that was doing they were drilling these wells, and there's a difference in between a dug well and a drilled well, right? A drilled well is better and a dug well is not, but their name had to deal with digging wells, but they're drilling wells. And so they want to advertise, but I'm like, but your name is wrong. Like, this is incorrect. So we actually have to fix that before we start going to market. And you can apply that to any industry, right? I don't think it's all about branding. We do a lot of branding here, but if your branding is misleading, then it doesn't matter how much marketing you do. You're always going to get customers that basically just abandon your website. So that's the first thing. Then what we do is we look at 3 pillars. And these 3 pillars are the things that we use in any digital marketing plan. And very simply to remember it, it is site, search, and social. Okay, so site has everything to do about their website, their landing pages, what's also called the POC, the point of conversion. If we're bringing in tons of traffic and we're doing a great job advertising, but they're coming to a non-mobile, responsive, outdated, confusing website, there's no point. And so building an actual proper website or web presence with different things is going to actually help the process of converting people later on. Then we look at search engine marketing, and not just from the standpoint of like just net new customers, but if somebody's looking up your brand, how do you appear on search engines to your end customer? How do you look in regards to reviews? Are you appearing? And then the last thing is social media marketing, of how are we actually engaging people out there, attracting them to your website and converting them into clients. Now there's a couple other things that we look at as well too, but I think those would be the 3 main things of site, search, and social that we first spend time on and understand, like, what is the appropriate mix that would help them grow their business.
What is content marketing, and where does that fit into those three S's?
Sure. So content marketing is actually, it's a great topic, because sometimes people would put that into the social media bucket of just saying, okay, we're publishing content on social media. I actually believe that content marketing is a foundational layer below all 3 of those. So for example, content marketing is really providing information. It could be anything. It could be video. It could be the written word, which, I mean, people aren't reading as much as they used to, but it is still the written word. It could be images, infographics, books, audiobooks, like anything in which you're providing information is content. Now, I'd argue it be in all 3 for this reason. On your website, websites are famously designed and redesigned over and over and over again. And there's always that pesky little question of, okay, we're going to redo your website. Where's the content coming from? And, the either business owner or marketing manager, a lot of the time says, just use the content that was up there. So it's like, okay, so we're using the content that is 5 years old to sell your new customer, and maybe in drilled wells that could be the same. And you're right. But your website should provide information to the user that helps them in their user journey. And that probably needs to be looked at every year or so. As a digital marketing agency, we realize the content that's on our website today, we only have 6 pages on our website, is a little outdated, and we need to update it for 2020 in regards to what people are buying now. So content is on your website. People will always think that website is design first and then you fill in the blanks. I would say it's the opposite. You write what you want to convey, and then the design is only there. Its purpose is to actually support the content. Now, like as I say content, you may just say, well, that's just writing on the website. Well, once again, content is any information. So it could be a video that you want them to see, or images. In regards to search engine marketing, Google has been abundantly clear over the last decade in saying, we want to provide great content to the end user, which means it has to be updated recently. It needs to be organized in a way that they can view it on different devices. And so even when you're looking at a search engine marketing program, you want to link that with good content on your website to help search engines actually pick up that content. So for example, you are selling speaking services and coaching services. And so you could write a piece of content of, 3 things to check before you hit the stage. And you write a blog article about, like, these are 3 things that you need to visualize and think about before getting up on stage. And people may literally be Googling, like, what to think about before delivering a keynote presentation. And then your article comes up, and it only comes up because Google says this was just recently written, and now it's online and it's relevant to this searcher. So once again, content has to do with search engine marketing. And then social media, that's the obvious one. Social is all content. So it is pictures and videos and information, and it's stuff to do with today. It's not to do with like just, putting social for the sake of social. It's starting a content conversation about a topic that people want to consume. And so when we're looking at content now as an agency, we now see it as everybody's actually a content marketer in a different way.
Now, social media, is it about information, or is it about opinion, or is it about just social things?
Yeah.
Such as, here's Darrell water skiing.
Sure. So it could be any of those things, but I think the thing that is missed in social media most is that people usually err towards, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. That's usually where people go, because they're thinking, okay, I'm a business, so I'm an expert. And I use that term a little loosely, right? Because sometimes people can start a business yesterday and they're an expert. And that's okay. But then all they start doing is they just start shoving content at people. And content isn't necessarily bad. Like, content can be very good. But like, social media is, the first word is social. The second word is media. And I like to always remember that. The first thing about the network that makes it important, it's not just a news aggregator. It is a place where people can converse. And so it's not like, I recommend companies that it's not always about what you can say to your customer, but the conversation that you can have with your customer. And so asking them questions, asking open-ended things, and not just self-serving things like, who is your digital marketing agency? It's like, well, that's just lame, right? But, we could say something like, is the privacy issues surrounding TikTok going to impact your spend on TikTok in 2020? And people can start talking about it, right? It's an open conversation. And our formula with social media is that you create content to create conversation. And then conversation naturally builds relationships, and relationships over time creates revenue. And it's just like sales, right? If you go golfing with somebody in sales, the golfing doesn't matter. Who cares about the golfing? I'm terrible at golfing. I don't like golfing, but every once in a while I have to golf. And golfing is just the content. It's just the reason why people are coming together. And that could be what you're posting. But then the conversation that happens on the green is what builds the relationship. And by, 9 holes or 18 holes or 36 holes, if you really have that much time, then by then you actually have a friend. And when you're thinking about using a service in that friend's industry later on, hopefully you think of that friend first. Social media is very much the same thing. We are creating content to create conversations so that we can build relationships. And so that's why we don't talk at people. We talk with people on social media.
So the content, let me see if I understand this right. You suggested that in my case, I might post an article or even a video, I suppose, of here's three tips to think about, 3 points before you walk onto the stage. So that's me providing expert advice. Mm-hmm. And it sounded like it was important that I address a question, that I title the material with a question. What to think about before you get on the stage. Is that true? Is it better to put it in form of question?
I mean, I'm not saying that this is the only formula that works, but I'd say if you want people to engage, asking people questions, like open-ended, unled questions is the best way to get a conversation going. Think about it as, a networking meeting. The worst thing to do is walk up to somebody and saying, "Hi, my name is Darrell Keezer. I run Candy Box Marketing. We're one of the fastest growing agencies in Canada," and just talk all about myself. And if I never ask that person a question, they will very quickly feel like I'm the most important person in the room and that they don't matter. That's not a relationship, right? That's a pretty terrible conversation. So in the art of conversation, I think I remembered way earlier on of just like, how do I talk to somebody in who I've just met them, or I don't really know too much about them? And the answer is ask questions. And so it's the exact same on social media. The more you ask questions, the more you're going to talk. And people, every single person, I believe in the face of the earth, is an expert at talking about one thing, and it's themselves. So if you ask them a question about themselves, you're going to get an answer or an opinion.
And you've probably noticed, as I have, that when you ask people a question about themselves and allow them to talk and answer and tell you about themselves, they feel when they walk away that you were a brilliant conversationist.
100%, every time, every single time, and that's really important for them to feel the connection as well too. Because if they share something with you, they will feel a greater connection than if you're just sharing everything with them, right? And obviously it goes both ways, but people that don't get to talk don't feel like it's a good conversation. Same thing with your social media posts. If people feel like you're always just giving them information, they don't feel connection. They just feel like you're smart.
So, that's interesting. So the information needs to be there to be a trigger, but if only you keep providing information as if you're this guru that you think you are, that you're pretending to be, people feel actually you're coming on too strong. Like, shut up and ask me a question once in a while.
Yeah. Exactly. Or you're untouchable, or they're too dumb to even say anything to you, right? It's like, and you don't want to be like not approachable, right? Because if people don't feel like they can actually like talk with you or order from you, or it's like, George is amazing, but I don't even think I could call him. Like, I'm too nervous to even call the guy. That wouldn't be good for your business, and it wouldn't be good for their future speaking career. And so we have to build this relationship with people and help them just get to know us better. And this has been, the core of social media for years and years, but it's funny how companies still don't get it. And they'll say, well, how much do I need to spend and how much money I'm going to make? And although we do attach ROI behind everything, it's very difficult to say, okay, if I'm going to this networking meeting, how much do I have to spend for the breakfast, and how much am I going to make from that networking meeting? And it's like, well, that really depends. Like, it's not as straight as other forms of advertising.
Now, what's the difference between paid advertising online and content marketing, and are the two related?
Yeah, and they're definitely attached at the hip. And it also depends on so for example, for search engine marketing, if you write a really good article about 3 things to check before you go on stage, you may or may not hit the top of search. And we don't know, because Google is prioritizing a number of different sites. That changes every single 15 minutes. And there's so many different factors that's going to be based on, will this reach top content, or will it be on page 2? And, in regards to search engine marketing, I kind of, use a quote from Talladega Nights. If you're not first, you're last. Like, there's not being seventh isn't very good. It's like, well, maybe if they're desperate, right? And so Google also allows paid avenues where you can say, well, let's not, we're not appearing really well for, let's just say, for your business, let's say keynote speaker training, and you're not at the top. But you don't need to be at the top all the time, but you just want to get a bit of business. You can bid on those keywords and pay for those to come in over a period of time. It is pay to play. You turn it on, it comes in, you turn it off, it stops. With organic content, just like general content marketing, that builds up slowly over time, but then when it builds, you own it. Like it's constantly coming in. People that only base their plan on organic content aren't really thinking about the next 8 weeks of business. Because it's like, you know what, that's a great plan. And maybe that's going to be popular in 3 to 6 months. But when I build budgets, I don't like to build them over maybes or I hope so, or possibly we could get business. And so that's where we sub in some paid advertising to say, even if we don't get in front of these people organically, meaning just through your content, that I'm going to pay something to sponsor to get in front of that person.
So the paid pay per click type advertising, that'll get things started faster, and the content, the solid content, will keep it going over the long term. Is that the best approach?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But let's go after, I don't know, our competitors, and let's try to get them, or let's try to do something very specific for a webinar, and let's have like micro campaigns. And so there's always room for both. At Candy Box Marketing, we are definitely earning a lot more off of our organic content than we ever have because we've been around for so long, but we're still paying. Why? Because it's still worth it to us, right? It's like if I'm paying $20 for a good qualified lead, it's all good, right? It just depends on how quickly you want to grow it.
Now, Darrell, you broke up there. I heard you say if I pay $20 for a good lead, and then I lost the part out of that. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah. So if I pay $20 for a good lead, and even if I'm getting stuff organically, that's still a good rate. And so I'm not going to cancel out my paid advertising just because I have, other sources of customers coming in. I'll do both. And most companies will do both to help grow their strategy.
And during this crisis time, and we don't know how long it's going to last, are there opportunities out there in digital marketing that smart business should take advantage of?
Oh, absolutely. So one thing that we have been speaking about since April, and it's still the fact, is we're seeing two major trends that are both marketing. So the first thing is people are spending more time online. Why? There's not the basketball game that you went to like you do. You're a lot more time at home. Like all normal social activities are gone. And unfortunately, a lot of us are just staring at screens. So if you think about that, the consumer supply of eyeball and share of mind has gone way up. Okay, so it's almost like there's more customers that are more attentive to your behavior. The second thing that has happened is that during this time and these recessionary / if it's 3 quarters, this will be considered a depression, is that companies have slashed budgets. And we all know that one of the first things that companies cut is marketing. And so all these companies cut out of marketing. They're not spending all these marketing dollars. So there is an increase of supply of customers looking, a decrease of the demand of like advertising dollars. And so we can actually advertise for cheaper than ever before. So I can buy like Google ads and, just different Instagram ads and YouTube ads for less than I did before. And my competitors are all asleep at the wheel. So we've had a lot of clients that have been able to actually save money, do more, get more of the market share while the competitors are sleeping. We're taking all the customers, and that's something that I think anyone needs to take a look at. Now, I understand it's very hard when you're doing layoffs and you keep the marketing budget, but at the beginning it was about survival, and I think now companies are researching and saying, can we leapfrog our competition in 2020? Because they're not pushing. And
so Would it be fair, Darrell, would it be fair to say that during any crisis or any downturn, economic downturn, there is always a marketing opportunity that many companies miss?
Absolutely, and really, it's because it's driven by budget. And I understand, like, we also budget for our company, and you've got to make your plan. But if you think about online marketing like a car auction, okay, if you find out that there's double the amount of cars next week and half the amount of audience, you know there's going to be good deals. Now, I'm not saying we're opportunistic in regards to like making money off of pandemic or anything like that, but it's just the reality of the way that the market is flowing during those times, that yes, you can get better rates and you can advertise cheaper and pick up more customers in a time of crisis, because everybody else just decides, let's just cut our budget regardless of what the results are.
Last question for you before we wrap up. What if you were advising a good friend who runs a business or is looking to boost their marketing, and without specifically saying, come to Candy Box, what would you say are the most important 2 or 3 questions that they should ask of a digital marketing company when they start creating their short list? What should they be saying, and what should they be looking for?
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question. Number one thing I would say, show me 2 or 3 companies that look like me online, like that you've done, and take a look at their work, and just like, from a marketing standpoint, does it please you? Like, does it look good? There's a lot of digital marketing companies that just make crap out there. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. The conversion path is confusing, or it just looks like a template. And so just show me 2 or 3 of your customers, and they should be able to show you something, and hopefully in your industry, so that you can kind of get a bit of a feel for the type of work that they're going to be producing. In that, I would also say, take a look at their own marketing, because they're not going to give you better than what they've built for themselves, generally speaking. And so if you don't like the way that they actually go to market, you don't like their brand image, you don't like their website, you don't like how it functions, that's the person that you're going to be working with. That's the first thing. Second thing, I would ask them about conversion rates. So it's kind of like, what is your conversion rate off of campaigns, like an average conversion rate? And if they say, well, the industry is X, it's like, are you even getting the industry rate? If they're not measuring it, then they're not a KPI focused business. And I don't know if I would ever hire a marketing agency that doesn't focus on the numbers, because that's what our job is. But sometimes they think it's about pictures. And so even if it's a beautiful site, do you produce the numbers? As an example, the average the average conversion rate in Google Ads is 2.7%. Our average last year was 7.9%. So we can confidently say we are producing 3 times the industry average of conversion rate, and this is how we do it. If somebody doesn't know what that number even is, I would run very quickly away. The third thing, and I mean, this is not just in regards to digital marketing companies, but third thing is, I would just say, like, show me a recent client that you worked with, just a recent one, like in the last year, just one. Note the company name and call them, and just say, how was your experience? We're finding that with digital marketing, when you're dealing with a number of outsourced people, the devil's in the details. And so even though the end product could look good, did it take them 9 months to get there? And do you have that 9 months to afford to get there yourself, right? And so find that out as well. Find out what their experience was working with the team. And if you don't mind me adding, I know you asked for 3. I just gave you 3, but I'm going to give you one more.
A bonus point. I always like someone who gives a bonus.
Absolutely. Is who is working on my project? And then once they tell you, just say, okay, but who's actually doing the work? And if they are outsourcing it, or even ask them, like, are you outsourcing this to either like Google themselves? Are you outsourcing any of the development overseas? Ask them very pointed questions about that, and hopefully they'll be honest and answer you. And you've got to make a decision whether or not you want this work to be outsourced. Most people don't even know, and then they only find out later. Outsourcing slows down the job. It's not always the best quality. And one of the biggest things that we're finding in 2020 that is very scary is that if you're outsourcing to a company that's contracting overseas and they have the back end to your website, they can easily take all the leads and all the results and all the data that's going through and either sell it or use it or even give it to your competitors. And so, and it doesn't matter if they've got like an agreement. It's like, are you going to be able to sue somebody overseas if they took all of your customer data and gave it to someone else? And so those are some important questions that I would ask a digital marketing agency if I started working with one.
Terrific. The more companies out there that start asking those questions, the less likely they're going to be with a marketing agency for only 4 months.
100%. Exactly. Yeah.
Darrell Keezer, thank you for some passionate and powerful and very useful advice about how to deliver your intended message using online means, social media, digital marketing, to become more profitable and more productive and build better relationships at the same time. Darrell, thanks. I'm delighted to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. If you like what you heard, remember to like, comment, and share this podcast. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you convey your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.